My parents revealed they were handing my sister the house. Everyone applauded. Can you imagine Thanksgiving dinner ending with a foreclosure notice dropped right onto the turkey platter? Because that's exactly what I did. And in that moment, my entire family and the web of lies they'd spun absolutely froze. What the hell happened to get us there? All right, let me back up a little. My name's Ethan, I'm 30, and I'm an environmental compliance inspector. I've worked on some massive construction projects, and frankly, my job isn't glamorous until you realize I'm the guy who can halt a $25 million project with just one signature. I live in Chicago now, and for most of my adult life, I've kept my head down and my family at arm's length. Why? My parents were notorious for playing favorites, and my sister, Claire, she was always the chosen one. I built my own life, maintained my distance, and tried to stay out of their mess. But this Thanksgiving, they decided to make it my problem in a way I'm still processing. About 4 weeks before the holiday, my mom called me at work. I was knee-deep in reviewing soil samples for a highway expansion in Aurora, dirt under my nails, a dull ache starting behind my eyes from wearing a dust mask all morning. "Honey," she started, and I swear, my stomach instantly dropped. I knew it was going to be bad. She only used that syrupy honey voice when she wanted something, or when she needed me to stay silent about something. "What's up, Mom?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. "I just want to make sure you're still coming to Thanksgiving," she purred, "and that you'll be nice." I paused, setting down a sample bag. "Nice about what?" "Your sister has great news to share. We're all extremely excited for her. I just don't want you to make it about yourself or start anything." There it was. Just like always, I was the problem before I'd even walked through the door. I hadn't planned to start anything, but the implication stung. "Good," she continued, completely ignoring my inner thoughts, "because this is a really important moment for Claire and the entire family. We want things to be perfect." Claire, my younger sister, was 27. She still lived at home in Neepville, worked as a dental receptionist, making maybe 41 grand a year. She drove the car Dad bought her, used Mom's paid-off credit card, and had never paid a dime of rent in her life. "I'll be there," I told my mom, the words feeling like ash in my mouth, "and I'll be glad for her." "Sure, Mom." I could practically hear her disbelief in the silence on the other end, but she let it go. She really had no choice. I hung up, staring at my phone. This pattern, it had been going on for 30 years. Claire was praised just for showing up. I was interrogated for simply existing. I still remember when I was 24, drowning in student loans, and I asked Dad for $6,000. He just flat out said no. Told me I needed to learn the value of hard work. 18 months later, Claire decided she wanted to travel Europe. 4 weeks, $9,500. Dad paid for the entire thing. If I didn't make a dark joke about it, I swear I'd shake. My boss, Mitchell, poked his head into my office. He's 58, been doing this work for 3 decades, seen every type of family drama you can imagine. "You look like you just got some bad news," he observed. "Family stuff," I admitted. He just nodded. He didn't press, and that's why I liked him. "Are you going home for the holidays?" he asked. "Yeah. We need to talk about it." "Nah, I'm fine," I lied, forcing a smile. He looked at me for a second, then a slight smirk. "You're one of the most composed individuals I've ever worked with. Whatever it is, you'll handle it correctly." I appreciated that more than he'd ever know. That night, I went back to my Lakeview apartment and opened my files. Not work files, the other ones. I'd been building them since September. It all started with another phone call. "Dad, September 23rd, 10:15 a.m. I was on site near Joliet, about to crawl under a house to check the foundation drains. "Son," he began, his voice tight, "I need to speak with you about something important." My stomach sank. Someone died? Someone sick? Is something truly wrong? "We need help. Financial assistance." "It's Mom. She underwent surgery back in June. Insurance didn't cover everything. We're looking at around $24,500 in medical bills." I didn't hesitate. I can help. How much do you need? Is that all? $24,500. Could you wire it this week? Something felt off. Mom had surgery in June. It was now September. Why wait 2 months to ask? I pushed it down. They were my parents. Let me call the hospital, I told him. I'll arrange a payment plan directly with them. Silence. A long, drawn-out, heavy silence. We'd prefer cash, Dad finally said. We'll handle the hospital. That's when I knew. Dad, if there are medical bills, I will pay the hospital, not you. His voice changed then, became defensive, cold. We don't need you to question us. We need assistance. Then allow me to assist properly. I shot back, my patience wearing thin. Which hospital? He hung up. I sat in my truck for a full 12 minutes, just trying to process it. Then I made a few calls. I contacted the 4 major hospitals in their area, inquiring about any outstanding balances in my parents' names matching what Dad claimed. Nothing. No $24,500 bills in collection or waiting to be paid. So I dug deeper. It cost me $75, but I obtained the property records for their house. What I found made my blood run cold. A second mortgage, $98,000, 5 months overdue. The first mortgage, $59,000 balance, 3 months late. My throat tightened. My hands shook as I sat there in my truck, staring at that printout. My father had lied about Mom's surgery, lied to get money. He lied because he knew if I found out the truth, I'd blow the whistle. I took everything I could legally get my hands on. Loan documents from the county recorder, marina records. Dad had purchased a 36-foot cabin cruiser, an $85,000 boat. He risked his house for a boat. 3 weeks later, Claire made a big announcement on social media using house emojis. They're giving us the house, she posted. So excited. That's when I started making copies of everything, and I'd been carrying that folder ever since. Thanksgiving morning. I was on the road by 8 a.m. Holiday traffic out of the city is always a nightmare, but I had a mission. The family group chat was already blowing up. Can't wait for everyone to arrive. Today is going to be very special. Claire chirped. Mom chimed in. Ethan, what time will you be here? Approximately 2 o'clock. Perfect. Claire's announcement is at 2:30. Oh, so a performance had been scheduled and choreographed. I pulled into their driveway at 1:58 p.m. Aunt Laura's Mercedes was already there. Uncle Mark's pickup. My cousin Emily's Honda. Ryan's parents had parked their SUV near the curb. His mother was already inside helping with appetizers. At least 17 cars total. The folder was on the passenger seat. I grabbed it, locked the truck, and walked up the front steps. Claire opened the door before I could even knock. She was in a white sweater dress, hair curled, makeup flawless. She looked ready for a cocktail party, not a family dinner. You made it, she stated, not warm, just observational. Traffic was light. She stepped aside, no hug. We'd stopped doing that years ago. The house was packed. People everywhere. Football game blaring on TV. Kids running wild. That dreadful green bean casserole everyone pretended to enjoy sat on the counter. Dad was in the living room with Claire's boyfriend, Ryan. Ryan, insurance salesman, maybe $60K a year. Drove a leased BMW he couldn't afford, and wore cologne that reeked of a high school locker room. Ethan! Dad got up, lumbered over, and did the usual backslapping hug thing. Good to see you, son. But his eyes were on mine, trying to gauge if I was going to be a problem. I just smiled, gave him nothing. Grandma, sharp as a tack at 86, was in her corner chair. She watched me walk in, gave a slight nod. She knew something was coming. I could see it on her face. I found a spot at the dining room table, placed the folder on the floor next to my chair, sat down and waited. The room slowly filled. People made small talk. Someone asked about the game. Someone else complained about gas prices. Aunt Laura was deep in book club drama. Uncle Mark was explaining his new truck's towing capacity to anyone who'd listen. Claire sat at the head of the table, the place of honor. Mom to her right, Dad to her left. Ryan stood awkwardly next to Dad, looking nervous. There was another person at the table I didn't recognize, an older woman with a professional air. A briefcase sat next to her chair. "Who's that?" I whispered to Emily. "No idea," she shrugged. "She arrived right before you." I was directly across from Claire. Direct line of sight. She caught my eye and smiled. Not a pleasant smile. A winning smile. Dad stood, tapping his fork against a wine glass. Chairs scraped as people quieted. "Before we eat," he began, "I'd like to say a few words about family, gratitude, and the blessings we've received this year." Standard speech. Same every year, minor tweaks. "We are especially grateful to have everyone here today, and we've got some very exciting news to share." He looked at Claire. She stood. Ryan stood next to her, but she was the star here. The entire room watched. Some people had already pulled out their phones, recording, waiting. Ryan's mother was beaming, smiling too much, clearly trying to be supportive on camera. Claire began speaking, her voice shaking slightly with emotion. "It's difficult to say whether I'm more excited or nervous. Mom and Dad are giving us their house." A wave of gasps and "oh my God" swept through the room. "We'll take over the existing loans, which Dad says are in excellent condition," she continued, "and begin building equity. No more renting." The room erupted. Applause, cheers. Someone whistled. Aunt Laura was openly crying. My cousins were all smiling, raising their glasses as Uncle Mark shouted, "Congratulations! We'll handle everything." Claire's voice grew louder over the din. The payments, the upkeep, the fact that we're actually building something. More cheering, more phones emerging. Forks stopped halfway to mouths. Dad stood, raising his hand. "And because the lender requires signatures to complete the transfer and new loan terms, we've hired a mobile closing agent. We're going to handle the paperwork right here, right now." The woman at the end of the table stood, opened her briefcase, and took out a stack of papers. "This is Patricia," Dad explained. "She does after-hours mobile signings. She's here to oversee the signing and notarization of the documents." He gestured grandly. "Claire, sweetheart, come down here so we can get started." Claire was glowing. She floated toward the closing agent. Ryan was filming with his phone. "This is amazing. This is actually happening." My chest tightened. My jaw didn't stop twitching. This was it. They were going to do it. Right here. Right now. Then Claire looked at me directly. The room was still noisy, but her gaze was laser-focused. "Unlike some people who leave and only return home twice a year," she spat, "I have always been here. I help with the yard. I run errands. I show up. And I believe action should be rewarded." Someone laughed, then immediately regretted it, shrinking under the sudden glares. People were looking at me, waiting for my response. My cousin Emily leaned in to whisper something to her boyfriend, who then looked at me and grinned. Uncle Mark raised his glass. To the daughter who remained. To Claire. The room echoed to Claire. Aunt Laura set her wine glass down, giving me a pitying expression. "You're not upset? I mean, your sister will receive the entire inheritance. Should I be?" I asked, my voice flat. She glanced at Claire. "I just think some people might be hurt." "He's fine," Claire snapped, her voice sharp. "He doesn't need anything from us. He has a big Chicago life." My cousin Tyler spoke up from the corner. "That's cold, dude. You drove for nearly an hour to watch your sister get everything." "Tyler, do not start," someone hissed. "What?" "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking," he retorted. "Guy moves away, barely visits, and now he's supposed to smile while she gets the house." I took a sip of water, carefully placed the glass down, and said nothing. Uncle Mark leaned, back in his chair. "Chicago made you cold, Ethan. You used to be part of this family." "I am a member of this family," I corrected him. "Are you?" Claire cut in, her voice dripping with venom. Because you think you're better than the rest of us. As if your current situation is insufficient. Someone's younger cousin, maybe 16, leaned across the table holding his phone. The camera pushed close to my face. Get his reaction. This is gold. I didn't move. Didn't blink. I looked straight at the camera. Make sure you understand my positive side. It's the only one that appears here. Uncle Mark laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. I mean, look at him. Ice cold. Nothing bothers the big city guy. The younger cousin spoke up. Could we just eat? This is awkward. It's not awkward, Claire explained. Ethan is simply being Ethan, Mom said quickly, her voice strained. Ethan understands. He has always been the strong one. Aunt Laura looked at me strangely now. But Robert, this seems like a lot to give to a single child. Claire earned it, Dad insisted firmly. She stayed. Ethan made his decisions. Claire demanded, say congratulations like you mean it. Don't just sit there judging us. The phone kept recording, a small red dot glowing. Smile, Ethan, Mom said, her sweet voice laced with steel. Claire remained standing. Papers in the closing agent's hand. Pen ready. I set down my glass. That's very generous, I said, my voice deadpan. Congratulations. Claire blinked. Smile as if you mean it. I am smiling, I countered, my eyes fixed on hers. This is simply my expression as I watch a train crash into a wall. Aunt Laura touched my arm. Are you really okay with this? Should I be upset? I mean, it's also your family home. Claire snapped. He left it. You do not have the right to leave and complain when someone else takes what you left behind. Tyler grumbled. That's harsh. It's true. Claire insisted, turning to him. He's too good for Neatville. Too good for family dinners. Too good for Sunday visits. Actions have consequences. I didn't leave. I received the reward. The closing agent cleared her throat, clearly uncomfortable. To be clear, these signature lines establish you as new borrowers on the loans. If we're going to do this, let's get started. Dad nodded, gesturing toward Claire. Claire took a step toward the closing agent. I looked at Dad. He was pale, white knuckles gripping his chair. Hey, Dad, I said, my voice quiet but firm. We can do this privately. Walk with me. He was frozen. No. Claire replied immediately, stepping back. We're doing this right in front of everyone. You don't get to take him aside and poison it. Mom's face became tight with panic. Ethan, please don't ruin this. I offered to not ruin it privately, I reminded her. There's nothing to discuss. Dad said, his voice shaking. Claire walked back toward the closing agent. Simply ignore him. He's trying to make this about himself, as he always does. Last chance, I said quietly, my gaze piercing Dad. For what? Claire snapped, turning to me, exasperated. So what could you possibly say? I reached down and picked up the folder. Okay then, let's do it here. Dad's face was drained, every drop of color gone. Mom's hand began shaking so violently she had to put down her wine glass. Ethan, Dad said, his voice a strangled whisper. Not now. Not now. I opened the folder. When would be better? After she signs. What signs? Ryan asked, looking bewildered. I pulled out the first document, a foreclosure notice. Large red letters. The case number printed at the top. I placed it in the center of the table, directly on the turkey platter. The notice of default, I stated, my voice cutting through the suddenly silent room. Filed on October 31st. There have been 5 months of missed payments on the second mortgage. 3 months for the first. Claire stared at the document. What's that? I took out another page. The actual foreclosure filing timeline. Amounts to avoid foreclosure. The bank requests a reinstatement payment of $29,000 by mid-December. Following that, the combined monthly payment is approximately $3,100. That is before utilities, property taxes, insurance, and repairs. That is not true. Mom started, her voice shrill. Call the bank, I challenged her. Ask what is required to reinstate the loan at this address. Or look up the foreclosure filing yourself. The case number is right at the top. This is a public record. Nobody moved. The closing agent was already packing her briefcase, standing up. I cannot proceed while the parties are arguing the terms and there is visible coercion. If you want to proceed, reschedule with the lender. She walked out quickly, practically ran. I looked around the table at everyone's faces. The phone was still recording. So, here's my question, I said, addressing the room, my voice low and steady. Do you want the truth or a performance? Someone's phone was still recording, the little red dot glowing. I can walk out, let you sign, let you know when the reinstatement deadline arrives. But you can't come up with $29,000, I'll tell you now. Claire was moving toward me, her face contorted. You're lying, because you can't stand how happy I am. She was standing over me, pointing, her voice loud. She slammed her hand on the table. Silverware jumped, knocking over a wine glass. Red wine splattered across the white tablecloth, bleeding into the corner of the paperwork. I took the folder back. Sit down, I said flatly, quietly. Something in my voice changed. She stopped talking. She remained standing, but did not move closer. I took out more papers, the recorded mortgage document, the tax lien notice, and my own text messages to Dad. You're not giving her the house free and clear, I said. You're only giving her debt, mortgage and escrow, approximately $36,000 per year, not including what breaks, not including what the county has already filed liens for. Aunt Laura picked up one of the papers, reading it with wide eyes. Robert, this is real. Where did you get this? The county recorder's office, I said, my voice calm. Public records. $75. Ryan was backing away, his face etched with confusion and dawning horror. Wait, Claire, you mentioned that the loans were current and manageable. You didn't mention anything about default or reinstatement. They are current. Claire stammered, looking at Dad. Right. You mentioned that the loans were in great shape, Ryan insisted, looking between Claire and her father. You said we only needed to sign the transfer. Dad couldn't speak. Uncle Mark picked up the foreclosure notice, his face hardening. This means they are months behind. Final notice. That cannot be right, Mom whispered, her voice barely audible. It is dated October 31st. Claire earns $41,000, I continued, unyielding. Ryan, you said you make $60,000. Total take-home pay, combined, might be around $74,000. You would spend half of your income just to keep the house. There's nothing left for a wedding, savings, or emergencies. Emily's mouth was open, her eyes wide. They planned to trick her, she whispered to her boyfriend. They were going to trap her, I explained. Ryan's face was beet red. You told me the house was in good condition. You stated that we would be building equity, not digging out of a foreclosure. We thought we'd catch up, Dad said weakly. Based on what? I asked. What has changed? What made you suddenly believe you could handle debt that you had been defaulting on for months? Silence. Ryan was grabbing his coat. I'm out. I am done with this. Ryan, please wait. Claire chased him to the door, her heels clicking on the hardwood. Baby, please. We can figure it out. We can. The front door slammed. His parents followed him out, their voices rising in anger in the driveway. Claire returned 40 seconds later, mascara running, lipstick smudged. You did it. You've ruined everything, she shrieked. I didn't ruin anything, I explained. I read it aloud. They needed help. You should have helped them, she sobbed. I tried. They refused. Ryan's parents walked back in. His mother's face was hard as stone. He will not speak to us. He says he needs space. She turned to face Mom and Dad, her voice laced with fury. Were you going to do this to our son? We assumed they'd figure it out, Mom said weakly. How do you calculate foreclosure and marital debt? Grandma spoke for the first time, her voice cutting through the chaos. Everyone stopped and looked at me. What exactly do you mean when you say they refused? I pulled out my phone and opened the call log. On September 23rd, Dad called and told me Mom had surgery. $24,500 in medical bills. They asked me to wire the money. I showed the screen to those nearby. Date, time, duration of call. I immediately agreed. I said I'd call the hospital and arrange a payment plan. He said no. They wanted cash. That's when I realized something was wrong. I looked at Mom. I called the hospitals, asked if there were any outstanding balances in my parents' names that matched what Dad claimed. Nobody had bills like those. Nothing recent that fit. Mom's face wrinkled in horror. That's when I pulled the property records. I continued. Discovered the mortgages, the missed payments, and the foreclosure timeline. Claire, still reeling, screamed, "You should have given him the money anyway. What will you spend it on? Additional boat maintenance." Uncle Mark's head snapped upward. Boat. I took out another document. Boat registration at the marina. 36-foot cabin cruiser. March 2021. $85,000. The room became nuclear. Uncle Mark was on his feet, practically roaring. Aunt Laura was yelling. Emily shook her head in disbelief. "You purchased a boat." Uncle Mark's voice was powerful enough to strip paint. "We thought we could afford it," Dad whispered. Grandma stood. Her chair scraped loudly, cutting through the noise. Everyone became quiet. "How long have you been hiding this?" Dad finally spoke, barely audible. "It had been 18 months. Instead of asking for help, you chose to lie to your children," Grandma said, her voice filled with a quiet fury. "We were desperate," Mom protested, tears streaming down her face. "Desperate enough to lie on loan documents," Emily accused, her voice trembling. "If they misrepresented the transfer to the lender, that constitutes fraud." "You tried this on Ethan first, didn't you?" Aunt Laura inquired, looking at me. I nodded. On May 11th, I was asked to co-sign. They called it a refinance, just a formality. "And you signed?" Uncle Mark pressed. "Almost. I told them I wanted my lawyer to review it first." I took out another document. I received an email from my lawyer. Subject, don't sign. She told me that if I signed, I would be legally responsible for $155,000. That's when I began digging. Claire turned to me, pointing a trembling finger. "This is entirely your fault." "I am not ruining anything," I stated calmly. I'm reading it aloud. "You were never the important one," she hissed, venom dripping from every word. "You were never good enough, and you can't accept that I finally won." The room became utterly silent. That was the line. The one you don't come back from. My hands clenched into fists beneath the table. "Hold it. Simply hold it." Emily's jaw dropped. Aunt Laura appeared horrified. I simply looked at her. Did not react. "Noted," I said quietly. The argument restarted, this time louder, more phones out taking pictures. I stood up. Claire looked at me, her face a complete mess of anger and despair. "How long have you known?" "Since September." "Why haven't you told me?" "I tried 3 times. You were always with them. They made certain I couldn't get you alone. You could have tried harder." "I'm trying now." She let out a harsh, broken laugh. "By humiliating me and keeping you from signing away your life." I grabbed my coat. "You're welcome." Grandmother stood up. Her chair scraped loudly, cutting through the noise. Everyone became quiet again. "Robert," she said, her voice stern, "please give me the boat keys." Dad blinked. "What?" "I am currently in possession of the boat keys," she repeated slowly. "You are not paying slip fees for another month while my grandchildren are on the verge of debt. Now, keys, now, or I'll call the marina and have it impounded." Dad fumbled in his pocket, pulled out a keychain, and handed it to her. She pocketed it, then took out her phone and began dialing. "Who are you calling?" Mom asked, her voice small, terrified. "My lawyer," Grandma stated, her eyes fixed on Mom and Dad. "We are changing my estate plan tonight. Everything is split equally between Ethan and Claire. You won't get anything until you've proven you're trustworthy." She took the phone to her ear and walked into the other room. Uncle Mark spoke up. "That boat will be listed tomorrow. I know a guy who does marine sales. We will get whatever we can out of it." "You can't," Dad began. "Pay attention to me." I walked toward the door. Aunt Laura stopped me, placing a hand on my arm. "Most of us witnessed it," she said quietly, her eyes full of regret. "How they treated you. How different it was from Claire. We didn't say anything. I apologize for that." I nodded. I didn't know what else to do with that information. "You did the right thing," she said, squeezing my arm. "It doesn't feel like it." I admitted, "It never does." I walked out. I didn't look back. My phone lit up before I got to my truck. Emily sent a text. "Aunt Laura called the cops. Thinks there may be elder abuse or fraud. This is going to get bigger." I sat there for 12 minutes, just breathing, looking at the house through the windshield. Then I started the car and headed back to Chicago. 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, I received a call from Detective Reynolds of DuPage County. We met in a coffee shop. She was in her mid-40s, professional, taking notes in an actual notebook. "Thank you for meeting." "Not a problem," I replied. "You are not in trouble. We're looking into your parents. There may be issues with loan misrepresentation." I walked her through everything: the September call, the timeline, the documents. She took notes, raising her eyebrows as she flipped through the pages. "Your parents claim you managed their finances and advised them on the property transfer." I pulled out my phone and showed her the texts. "This is where he asked for money. I offered to pay the hospital. He refused. That is it. I never accessed their accounts." She took a photograph of the screen. "So, they appear to be shifting liability." "Do you have evidence that you were not involved?" she asked. 3 years of no contact with their bank. No joint accounts, no power of attorney, and my lawyer's documentation from when they attempted to get me to co-sign in May. She flipped back through her notes. "Your sister mentioned that they pushed hard for a spring wedding. April, specifically. They scheduled the date before Ryan proposed. Mom chose the venue." She paused, looking at me. "April would have been 7 months after the property transfer, exactly when payments were due. If your sister and fiancé were married and lived there, they would expect his income to cover the costs without telling him what he was getting into. This is the fraud angle we're looking at. If the borrowers or lender falsified occupancy or intent, they would be making a misrepresentation to both parties." "What do you need from me?" I asked. "If it goes to court, the testimony will be truthful, which is unlikely. Most of these settle. I will tell the truth. That is all I have been doing." She closed the notebook. "You rescued your sister from years of financial ruin. Most people do not have anyone willing to blow up Thanksgiving to protect them." "I just read the paperwork," I said, a dry smile playing on my lips. She returned it, a genuine smile this time. "I will be in touch." Dad arrived at my office 4 days later. "Mitchell, my boss, summoned me in. Your father says there's a family emergency." Dad was there, looking strangely small. "We need to talk," he demanded. Mitchell was studying the room. "Take the day if you need it." "I'm good," I told Mitchell. "This will happen quickly." We went outside. The wind was cold, biting. "This needs to be fixed," Dad pleaded, his voice cracking. "The detective is taking documents. They're claiming fraud." "That is not my problem," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. "We are family. You do not do this to your family. You attempted to trap your daughter in debt she could not afford," I countered, my eyes narrowing. "What would you call that?" "We were desperate." "Then you should have asked for assistance," I said. "Honestly." He grabbed my arm. You can make this go away. Tell them there was a misunderstanding. I looked at his hand on my arm, then back at his face. He let go. I am not lying for you. Whatever happens right now is what you earned. She's falling apart, he cried. Your sister is not eating, sleeping, or taking her medication because she nearly signed away her life. I asked, a hint of bitterness in my voice, or because Ryan left her. In either case, then she should thank me. Ethan, please, stop contacting my workplace. Stop showing up here. If you need anything, please text me. I'll decide whether to respond. I walked back inside. Mitchell was waiting. You okay? Yeah. Family stuff. I repeated, a sigh escaping me. He nodded, a quiet understanding in his eyes. You handled it well. By mid-December, the foreclosure was officially underway. Claire texted. I met with a therapist. She claims I was conditioned to accept manipulation, that I confused favoritism for love. It's better to figure it out now than never. Can we talk when you're ready? Christmas came, and I didn't go home. Emily shared a photo from Grandma's. Small dinner. Caption, new tradition. You've been invited for next year. Grandma called that night. Claire is staying with me. Therapy is helping. Your parents declared bankruptcy. Then her voice softened. Tell her I'll be here when she's ready. February. Dad sent angry texts. I sent one back. Stop contacting my workplace. Further contact will be recorded as harassment. Then I blocked his number. Mitchell informed me I was up for promotion in April. Life moved forward. February 12th. Claire texted, can we meet? Coffee. We met in Neepville. She got there first, looking better, healthier. Hey, she said, a small smile. Hey. There was an awkward silence. I am sorry about Thanksgiving, she finally said. For what I said. For believing them instead of you. You didn't know. I should have questioned it, she admitted, looking down at her hands. I wanted the fantasy so bad. She looked up, a glimmer of her old self. How are you today? Better. Living with Grandma. Figuring out who I am beyond being Dad's favorite. She laughed, a genuine, lighter sound than I'd heard in years. It turns out that being the favorite equals being the most useful. Oh, I've started seeing someone. He's a paramedic. I told him everything. He did not run. That's good, I said, a small smile forming on my face. I miss having a brother. I'm still your brother. She began crying, tears silently streaming. I don't deserve that. Probably not, I said softly, but you'll get it anyway. We talked for an hour about the favoritism, about how I was expected to handle things while she received protection. They've been paying my car payment for a year, she confessed. I didn't know that specifically, I replied, but it does track. I thought I deserved it, she said, a new understanding in her eyes. It turned out I was just easier to control. They were unable to control you. That's why they went after me. Do you despise them? I asked. No, but I don't trust them, and I don't owe them my destruction. Grandma is changing her will. We'll split everything equally between us. Dad receives nothing until he proves his trustworthiness. Good. We left, stood in the parking lot. A cold February wind whipping around us. May I hug you? She asked. Yeah. She hugged me tightly. Thank you for saving me, even if I despised you for it. You're welcome. Can we try this again? Yeah. Call me anytime. April brought the promotion. Mitchell summoned me in. Senior inspector receives a 14% raise. You've earned it. Thanks. You've changed this year, he observed. More focused. It's obvious what you've been going through. Spring arrived. I was working on a project in Oak Park when my mother called. Ethan. Her voice was tiny, fragile. We need to talk about your father and I. We've been in counseling. We'd like to apologize. A real apology. Okay, I said, bracing myself. Can we see you face to face? Why? We owe you that. Because we were wrong. I thought about it. I will think about it. Please, your father looks different now. I will think about it. I hung up. That night I called Grandma. Mom wants to meet. They say they've been in counseling. Yes, they have, she confirmed. I have been paying for it. Condition of assisting them. Do you believe they've changed? I asked, needing her unfiltered wisdom. A long pause. I believe they're scared. Not the same as changed. Should I meet with them? It's your decision, but if you do, make sure they earn it. Thank you, Grandma. I did not meet with them. Did not respond to Mom's texts. I maintained the boundary. May 22nd, 7 months after Thanksgiving. Claire sent a text. This weekend, we're having family dinner at Grandma's. She wants everyone present, including you. Including them. Says it's time. I am not interested, I texted back. I know, but Grandma inquired. And she's 86. For her? I will think about it. For days later, I relented. I'll come, but I'll leave if things don't work out. Fair, Claire replied. Saturday afternoon. Grandmother's house. I was the last to arrive. I parked and sat for a minute, wondering if it was worth it. Then I got out. Grandmother opened the door. You arrived, she said, her eyes warm. Thank you. She hugged me. Keep an open mind, but do not accept any garbage. I walked inside. The living room was set up like a mediation. Grandma's armchair at the head. Claire was sitting with Noah. Emily was next to her boyfriend. Uncle Mark and Aunt Laura sat on the other couch. And Mom and Dad on the love seat, looking smaller, older, broken. Dad had lost weight. They looked up as I walked in. Dad began to stand. Sit down, Grandmother said, not loud but firm. He sat. I chose the chair farthest from them. Grandma sat next to Claire. We're here because this family is broken. Broken items are either repaired or thrown away. I'm too old to abandon my family, so we're fixing it. Nobody spoke. Robert, Susan, she commanded. You have something to say. Say them. Dad cleared his throat, his voice shaky. Ethan, we owe you an apology. A real one. I waited. We tried to use you, but you wouldn't let us. We attempted to use your sister. We transfer our problems to our children. That was incorrect. Mom cried. We were drowning. Debt, house, and boat. Rather than asking for assistance, we attempted to manipulate you both. We've been in counseling for 7 months, Dad explained, his voice thick with emotion. Working out why. The stress, shame, and fear of admitting failure. We filed for bankruptcy. Chapter 13. Everything is gone. We're starting over with nothing. And that is what we deserved. Mom added, You did not do this to us. We did it to ourselves. Silence. Grandma looked at me. Do you have anything to say? I took a breath. You did not just try to use me. You tried to destroy me. And when I refused, you moved on to Claire. You would have let her drown to avoid the consequences. Dad was openly crying now. You called my job, showed up at my workplace, tried to frame me as unstable, made me the villain for telling the truth. I know, Dad admitted, his voice raw. So no, I do not accept your apology. Not yet. Mom's face wrinkled. What do we need to do? Prove it through your actions, I said, my voice steady. Make amends. Create something real. How long? However long it takes. I do not owe you a timetable. Claire spoke up, her voice surprisingly strong. They've tried therapy. Being open about favoritism. Using me and treating you as expendable. That does not undo what they did. No, I agree, but it is a start. I looked at my parents. Really looked at them. They were broken. Not performing. Just broke. You wanted the image more than your children. Now you don't have either. So what are you planning to do? Mom wiped her eyes. Whatever it takes, no matter how long. We simply want our children back. You cannot have us back the way we were, I told them. That is no longer viable. But perhaps you can try something new. Grandma spoke, her voice clear. I've altered my will. Everything is split evenly between Ethan and Claire. Nothing goes to Robert until he proves he is trustworthy. And if Ethan says he is leaving, no one follows him. Nobody argues. Nobody guilt trips him. Anyone who violates that has to answer to me. Dad spoke, quietly, not arguing. He simply nodded. I stood up. I am leaving now. This was sufficient. Claire also stood. Can I walk you out? Yeah. We walked to the door and stepped out. The evening air was warm, soft. Thank you for coming, she said. This is for Grandma, not them, I clarified. I understand, she said, a small smile. But still it mattered. Are you okay getting there? Noah has been good to me. Therapy is helping. I'm discovering who I am when I'm not performing. Good. Are we all right? I asked. We are getting there. She hugged me. I love you, even though I despised you. I loved you. I corrected her gently. I love you too. I walked to my truck, got inside, and sat for a minute. My phone vibrated. Dad sent a text. Thank you for listening. I know I did not deserve it. I'll spend the rest of my life regaining your trust, if that's even possible. I read it, did not respond, put down the phone, started the car, and drove home. 7 months ago, I blew up my family to save my sister. Today, I sat in a room filled with the wreckage. The truth didn't solve everything, but it cleared the way. I pulled into my parking spot and walked up to my apartment, a small one-bedroom. Nothing fancy but mine. Inside, I poured a drink, sat on the couch, and my phone buzzed. Claire, Noah would like to meet you officially. Have dinner sometime. Yeah, name the day. Lincoln Park, next Friday. It works for me. I put the phone down. Tomorrow, I had a site inspection in Epston. Following that, dinner with Claire and Noah. Nearly 2 years later, I was celebrating Grandma's 88th birthday, a small gathering. Claire and Noah. Emily with her boyfriend, Uncle Mark, and Aunt Laura. Claire seemed different now, sharper, more grounded. She'd moved out of Grandma's house in June, got her own apartment in Downers Grove, paid her own bills, and lived her own life. You look good, I told her. Feel good. Noah and I are talking about getting engaged, she confided, beaming. This time, actual planning will take place, rather than following someone else's timeline. That's good. Dad reached out last week and asked if we could meet. What did you say? Perhaps someday when I'm ready. She stared at me, a knowing look in her eyes. You're the same. We were not repaired, but we were not broken in the same way. Mom and Dad were staying in a rental in Plainfield. Dad worked in a hardware store. Mom did bookkeeping for a church. They were slowly rebuilding, without the boat and without the lies. Grandma called us to the table. Cake time. My phone buzzed while we were singing. Unknown number. I ignored it. After cake, I checked. Dad left a voicemail. Ethan, I just wanted to say happy birthday to your grandmother. I know we aren't invited. That is fair. I just wanted you to know that we are thinking about you both and the family. We are working on it. That is all. I hope you're doing well. I saved it. I did not delete. Did not respond. Perhaps someday. Not today. I took my phone and walked back inside. Claire was laughing at something Noah had said. Grandma was cutting second slices for anyone who requested them. This is right here. This was sufficient. I took another slice of cake and sat down. Forward, not backward. Call to action. Honestly, seeing my family laid bare like that, it was brutal but necessary. What would you have done in my shoes? Facing that kind of betrayal at your own Thanksgiving table. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and harsh truth? Let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear what you think.